Good evening, viewers, and welcome again to Discovering Truth. And this is Pastor Forbes from the Gateway, Abiding with Ministries. And this is going to be our third part in this topic we're discussing that I've entitled Some Nationhood Best Practice Dynamics. The things that come into play if we really want to see the best in our nation and for our nation, and the output of the nation being the best it can be. So this is part 3 of some nationhood best practice dynamics. And I trust we'll all be blessed because truth makes us free. Truth removes the veil of darkness, of blindness, and makes us become inquisitive and gives us liberty and some amount of confidence in what we do. But let me start by saying happy Valentine in advance to everybody. I know tomorrow is Valentine's Day, and happy Valentine. I know it's a global celebration, and let's do well, let's do proper, and let's keep within the bounds of righteousness and not do what is wrong. That day is celebrated around the world as a day of love, but for some people it's also a day of great loneliness because they have nobody to show them love or nobody to come around them. And so I extend this on television. If you're in the hospital, you're in prison, wherever you are, over and beyond the day itself and all the red and all the flowers and everything else, just to know that you are loved, you are appreciated wherever you are. And my love goes way above just the amorous, erotic love into God's own love, the agape love that we all want. So happy Valentine to us all. Secondly, this coming Sunday, of course, we will be celebrating as a nation our 53rd independence anniversary. It's been a long journey. We are not necessarily where we should have been after 53 years, but I think it's safe to say we are closer to it than where we started from in 1965. And so in my own little way, happy independence to us all, to His Excellency the President, to the Cabinet, to everybody. And I hope on Sunday we'll just have a great time. We are looking forward to having a smashing time in our church, in Abiding with Ministries, as we celebrate Independence Day anniversary. Thank God it's a Sunday and it's going to find us in church. So join us if you have nowhere to go to at 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll have an awesome time. Certainly we'll be praying for the country, singing the national anthem, reciting the pledge, and speaking on nationhood, some of the things I'm talking about here, because I love my country so dearly. It's the only country we have. If God saw it fit for me to be born here, then the best of me will come from this place. And the same thing for you, if it's the land of your birth or the land of your adoption, or even if it's your spiritual country. Let's pray for God's goodness. I think every line of our national anthem captures the thought that we all want for our nation. So look for the national anthem, look for the flag, and it will give you a sense of where we should be, and I'm sure we are on that path. And so God bless our country, God keep our country strong, and God keep our country practicing best nationhood dynamics for us all. So in this part 3 of this subject, I want to look at what I've entitled The Dangers of an Entitlement Mentality. The dangers of an entitlement mentality. In other words, whenever a people or even an individual or a group think that they are more entitled to something than other people within the same demographics, like a country or a family or a company or an association, a religious institution, the army, a business enterprise, then they are courting trouble and danger. And this is premised erroneously upon the understanding, again erroneously, that maybe I am better than you, I have more stake in this enterprise, especially in the nation, than you have. But we all know for a fact that God created us all equal, irrespective of our gender, our creed, and whatever. We are all equal in the sight of God. God has not made anybody with 3 hands and another person with 1 hand. We are all equal before God. And the truth is, when we all die, we all go to the same ground. We are not kept. So in many ways, people say we all own 6 feet deep of earth. That's what we own. And when I look back at where we came from last week, and we looked about these 4 young Hebrew boys who, against all odds, they were refugee boys. Them, their families, their nation had been taken into Babylonian captivity. Enough reason for them to feel disenfranchised, disappointed, depressed, discouraged, and everything that we can think of. But they found themselves at the top. Now, it's joyful to celebrate them at the top, but I think it's more rewarding and commending to celebrate the system that allowed them, even though they were not born in that country and therefore maybe not nationals, but they were allowed because of a best practice mentality that we want the best. And once we want the best, we allow the best to have the best. Now, whenever a system operates like that, then it has moved away from an entitlement mentality. Back to what I said at the beginning, an entitlement mentality means that I must have it either by my age, by my race, by my color, by my gender, by my tribe, by my religion. I should have it, and I must dictate what should happen. And that is really, really caught in some danger. In the Bible, for example, there are many, many people. There is Joseph, there is Queen Esther, there is King David, there is Solomon, there is even Musa. In the Bible, because of the woman that he married that was not from his place, his siblings raised a furor to God, and God actually punished them because it was an entitlement mentality. You can only do this within these boundaries and do not go outside of that. And as I said earlier on, more often than not, it is because of a superiority complex of sorts. We are the majority color, we are the majority tribe, we are the majority religion, we are the majority gender. This is the exclusive preserve for men. No woman can come inside. When a woman comes inside here, we're going to terrorize her until she leaves. And we think like that, but that is dangerous because the lesser of the two evils of an entitlement mentality is that it courts mediocrity, because the best will never show up because you are not prepared for it. You don't even want it. You assume that you are the best. The second thing about it is that people who feel thus dispossessed at best can leave and show their best abilities and expertise elsewhere, or sometimes, as we've seen around the world, they can go underground and form a movement and terrorize you in ways that you never thought would ever happen. And much as that is wrong, it is also the reaction of a dispossessed people. And so we must make sure that if we want the best in our nation, as we call it the new Gambia, no matter in what area or sphere, we must not court any kind of entitlement mentality, neither in the legislative arm, nor in the executive arm, nor in the judiciary, nor in any of the ministries: health, education, justice, sports, youth, trade, commerce, finance, nor in any area of public life, private sector, religion. We must make sure that we have a best practice mindset, because after all, that is how those 4 boys got it. Because you see, when somebody is good, why would you not want to make use of her or his skills in the name of this has to be our own? Because if your own is not good, it is not good, my friend. And you will struggle and desire the best from your own. But if your own cannot deliver, your own cannot deliver. And you may say, well, yes, I can train my own. But why spend all that time training when the actual thing you need is right there before you? If we love each other, accept each other, and understand under God that we are all the same, that will help us. A couple of examples I know in the Bible. There was a time when the disciples of Christ came and they were reporting a particular man of exorcising evil spirits, demons, from a man, but they said he was not part of their group. And Jesus Christ answered and said, don't harass him. If he is not against me, he is for me. Because you see, we cannot all, there's unity and there's uniformity. We can all be united, but in our diversity, our unity can show forth best. Today, we are celebrating our nation. I just heard on the television last night the presidential delegation in Turkey, the GAIPA chief executive was praising the country, that nobody will pick you up at 3 o'clock in the morning, your business is secured, and all that comes because we allow diversity. Because if it's a monolithic, hegemonic way of thinking, that will not happen. So we say the Gambia is open for business. The new Gambia is open for business. That new Gambia has all kinds of people, all tribes, all religions. Some people don't even believe in anything, but they're there. If they were born here, possibly of Gambian parents, constitutionally, they are Gambian. And their stake is as much as anybody else's stake, as is their vote. So Jesus Christ told them, because he's not of your club, doesn't mean he is against me. And he says, if he is not scattering and he's gathering, then he's part of me. Also, there is a man in the Bible called Cornelius. Cornelius was a non-Jew, known as a Gentile, and he was religious, so he was fasting, he was giving alms, and God interfaced him and said to him in his heart that what you're doing is good, but that's the secondary thing. In other words, like we say in English, you're putting the cart before the horse. You need to put the horse so it can draw the cart. You need to regularize your relationship with me. You need to come and lay down your will and your heart to me. Accept my salvation plan. Let there be a transformation in you. Be born anew, be born again first. And then your good works will matter, because your good works will have no effect if the inner true you spirit is not regenerated. And so he said to him, so you need to go and look for somebody called Peter. And when you look for Peter, Peter will help you. So Cornelius went and found this Peter. And Peter had a little bit of prejudice in him because he was Jew and Cornelius was a Gentile. And, he found it difficult to accept that what had become such a joy to him could be extended to the non-Jew. And if you read that scripture in the Bible, it's in the book of Acts, which is the 5th book in the New Testament, and the 10th chapter. Peter took such a long time preaching and preaching and preaching, and God's Spirit said, look, Peter, you are going through this whole winding thing, and God just brought his power upon this man, and the man was transformed. And Peter made a statement, and he said something to this effect in Acts chapter 10, I think from verse 44 down to 46, that of a truth I know that there is no impartiality with God. God does not show favoritism. Everybody that comes to God is accepted by God. In other words, the things that we thought were just the exclusive preserve of the Jews, God has extended it to the Gentiles. So an entitlement mentality is a dangerous thing to have in a family, in a company, in a nation, in any institution. Because what it means is that the best is for us, and these people are second rate, they are second class. And of course, you divide the institution, divide the family, and if it's a nation, you divide the nation. And you feel only you can dictate what can happen. That is courting danger. There is another story which I really like to tell you. I heard this somewhere, that there was a young man who became very rich, extremely wealthy, and just decided he wanted to own his city. So he began to buy, let's say there were 40 properties in his city, a small city. And he was buying, and if your property was 1 million, he offered you 2 million. And people were selling their properties until he bought 39 of the properties. And he said he wanted to make sure that the city was his own. And there was this one property in the center of the city, but it was owned by a very old man. And this young boy came to the old man and said, I want to buy your property because there are 40 properties here, for example. I've bought 39 and I want yours. Yours is the only one that is remaining. And the old man said, young man, I'm not selling my property. And the man said, really? what is the value of this property? The old man said, it's 4 million. And the young boy said, I give you 8 million. The man said, it's not going to do it. He said, I give you 12 million. It's not going to do it. I give you 20 million. It's not going to do it. I give you 100 million for this property. The old man said, young boy, keep your money. I just want to teach you a lesson that wherever you go to in this world, you will never be able to say that this city belongs to you. You will always be able to say this city belongs to you and I together. You have 39, I have 1. But this one that I have is also in this city. In other words, when you have an entitlement mentality, you want to drive everybody out. And that cannot happen. You alone are not good enough for everything. Let's look at the demographics of our country. Let's look at the tribal demographics, the religious demographics, the gender, obviously 2 gender, but let's look at the non-Gambian participation. Let's look at, we talk multilateral, we talk bilateral, we talk signing of all kinds of agreements and ratifying all kinds of things, domesticizing all kinds of things. Why? Because we cannot stand on our own. Not even our national budget stands on its own, because only about 40 to 45% of that budget comes from local money, if at all we get that. So it means that at every realm, I need you and you need me. And so there must be some allowance and leeway for everybody to express themselves for the best to come out if we want the nation, as we call it, the new Gambia, to show that it's new and not a decorated and sprayed, cosmetized new, but a brand new, a new wineskin attracting new wine. I remember many years ago we woke up and found out that, I think the Grammy Awards or the Oscars, I think it's the Grammy, we found out that an avenue of music that we thought was the exclusive preserve of black people was won by a white boy called Eminem. And everybody was shocked because, yes, it's delivery. No language is anybody's exclusive preserve. Because you were born English doesn't mean that you're going to speak better English than other people. Because you were born Wolof doesn't mean you're going to speak Wolof than other people. Many years ago in our church, a German lady, I still remember her Elfie Ball, came to our church with a kora. Then we were in Serekunda, and played this kora and sang in Mandinka. And she's not the only one. I know Nigerians doing that. But you would have thought that the best of the people will just say, no. If it's skill, if it's music, if it's anything that, especially if it comes into empirical science, people can do it. People come here as Peace Corps. They come here as missionaries. They go to the villages. They spend 6 months, 9 months, and they come back and they speak Mandinka more than you. We have Gambians who speak Chinese. We have white people who speak Fula. So entitlement mentality does not hold water anymore. My friends who are from Ghana always thought that the kente cloth was theirs. They've discovered that it can be made in all kinds of ways. We have the good old argument around West Africa on jollof rice. So if we want the best nationhood dynamic, we must open our eyes to the best deliverables and the best outcomes. I am told, and I think this is right, in a particular country, I believe it's Iceland, the chief of police is a West African black man. That can only happen if that nation, I'm sure they didn't do it because of affirmative action of sorts. Well, we just want to have a little bit of color in Iceland, so let's give this black man. I'm sure you'll find that in his professional abilities and every other thing that is required of him, he can do it. Isn't it our pride to know that maybe, let's say our president goes to China and the person interpreting for him from Chinese, Mandarin, or whatever language into English is a Gambian. Now, if that nation did not allow that person to learn and study, how will we know what they're saying? In the Second Republic, we had ministers who were speaking Spanish and Portuguese, and whenever delegations came, they came down and they interpreted, and you were comfortable. You knew they were not lying. So as we build the nation, we must understand that my view of the elephant only comes from my perspective, and the elephant can be bigger. And if I want your best and you want my best, and we have that as a mentality in our country, everybody will actually be challenged to be the best. So no one person, tribe, or religion or grouping can hijack the country. When Jesus Christ began to minister, and when he died, he left his 12 disciples, and they were doing such a phenomenal work that the religious group then, called the Pharisees and the Sanhedrin, they met and they began to complain, and they wanted to make sanctions. And one of them stood up and made this statement and said, let's leave them alone, because there was somebody that arose some time ago, and what he did not hold water. So why put so much energy into what is only fleeting? And then he qualified it by saying, but if this is of God, it will stand. And that was a very wise saying from a religious leader. He didn't say drive them away, kill them, obliterate them. He just said leave them. Because things of conscience and faith are things that are very delicate. Very, very delicate and sensitive. And my job would be to persuade. In this book of the Bible, Acts, that we're talking about, the man who was converted from Judaism to Christianity, Paul, he changed his name from Saul to Paul. He stood before a king called Agrippa and a governor called Felix or Festus. And he spoke so passionately to them that one of them cried out that, Paul, you are mad. Your education has made you mad. And he said, no. And then the king looked at him and said, Paul, you have almost convinced me to become a Christian. And Paul said, King, I wish you and all the people here and everybody will do so. And that's my personal wish too. But that doesn't mean I must do it by force. It doesn't mean I must switch everybody else's light off because of my light. No, there must be persuasion. In the Bible, it says it clearly that knowing the terror of God, we persuade. We do not force. If I feel that what I'm doing is good and right and straight and it's for God, then I believe my God whom I serve can deliver himself, and he doesn't need me to deliver him. It's almost like hotels, restaurants. Look at the telcos. Look at the enjoying time we are having here. Telephone companies competing with who has 4G and who doesn't have 4G. And as I said a couple of weeks ago, I hope we know that there is 5G. So maybe one telco will come into town and say, we have 5G. And maybe another telco will come and say, well, this 4G, the gigabytes go very quickly. And it's all competition. And so the consumers begin to demand and the producers begin to work hard. And it's a win-win for everybody. So I choose to go to Comium. You choose to go to Africell. Somebody else chooses to go to QCell. Somebody else chooses to go to Gamcell. Somebody wants to use NetPage. Somebody wants to use Unique. It's choice. But one person cannot say, close everybody. Look at the hotels. Take, for example, tomorrow is Valentine's Day. People are going to have dinner wherever they want. Maybe somebody lives in Brikama and is going to look for some restaurant down the beach in Cape Point. And it's like, why doesn't he stop in all the other restaurants? That's his choice. Look at the supermarkets. They are next to each other like that. Look at the schools. Look at the mosques. Look at the churches. So if one grouping has an entitlement mentality, can you imagine if we only had one supermarket in the Gambia, one church in the Gambia, one only mosque in the Gambia, one only hotel in the Gambia, one telephone company in the Gambia? No, the more the merrier. Let's have not only NAWEC, let's have more. So there is choice. And what that does is it even lessens the burden. And that's why government must always stand neutral and just let the field be level for everybody to play well. So we must not have an entitlement mentality in whatever we do. We must live and let live so we can be the best for our nation. I want to stop here because I want to finish next week. And let me say this is a word to the wise for all of us. There are Gambians today who are being celebrated in Nigeria. There are Gambians who are FAO reps in Uganda and in the bank managers in Kenya and all that. If it was an entitlement mentality, we'll all be locked in our country and nobody will interface with any other and we will just be inward looking. Let that not happen in our country. Let's open up and allow for interface for the best to happen. And let's believe that the best is everywhere and look for it so that we have a best practice dynamic for our new Gambia. Until I come your way next week, by the special grace of God, happy Valentine in advance. Happy 53rd anniversary to us all as the nation Gambia in advance. God bless us all. Have a good evening and good night.